The emergency klaxon echoed through Nexus Prime's council chambers like the death rattle of common sense itself. Admiral Thornscale dragged his remaining arm across the holographic display, switching off the alarm with considerably more force than necessary. His cybernetic leg wheezed as he stood, and his artificial eye flickered ominously in the dim lighting. "Let me get this straight," Thornscale growled, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen too much and lived to regret it. "You want to what now?" General Boone Crashington puffed out his chest feathers with the kind of confidence that only came from never having experienced true terror. His species, the Valorians, were known throughout the galaxy for two things: their impressive plumage and their impressive stupidity in military matters. "It's simple strategy, Admiral," Crashington squawked, gesturing dramatically at the star map. "The humans have discovered faster-than-light travel. They're expanding. They have resources we need. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we add another conquered species to our collection. Standard procedure." Ambassador Kick's Flutterwig's antennae twitched nervously as she translated Crashington's words into the 47 different languages represented in the chamber. Being the diplomatic corps' chief translator was stressful enough without having to explain why her colleagues wanted to commit what could only be described as elaborate suicide. "General," Thornscale said slowly, the way one might explain fire safety to a pyromaniac, "have you read any of the reports from our previous encounter with the humans?" "Previous encounter?" Crashington's head cocked sideways, a gesture that would have been endearing if it weren't attached to someone proposing interstellar warfare. "What previous encounter?" The silence that followed was the kind of quiet that suggested everyone in the room was suddenly questioning their life choices. Kix's compound eyes darted between the two military officers like she was watching a tennis match between a nuclear warhead and a hand grenade. "You mean," Thornscale continued, his voice dropping to the register usually reserved for funeral directives, "nobody bothered to mention the human incident of 50 years ago in your briefings?" "The what now?" "Meow." Thornscale looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of the Galactic Alliance's finest military minds. Some were checking their communication devices. Others were suddenly very interested in the ceiling fixtures. A few had the grace to look embarrassed. "Right," Thornscale muttered, settling back into his chair with the kind of resigned determination usually associated with explaining complex mathematics to houseplants. "Kix, cancel all my meetings for the next hour. And maybe order some strong sedatives for our feathered friend here. He's going to need them." "Is it really that bad?" Crashington asked, his confidence finally showing its first hairline crack. Thornscale's laugh contained absolutely no humor whatsoever. "General, let me put this in terms your warrior brain can understand. We fought the humans once. Once. Do you know what happened to the mighty armada of infinite conquest that I commanded in that glorious campaign?" "You won?" "Oh, we won all right. We won so hard that half the survivors needed psychological counseling, and the other half joined their military as advisors just to make sure we never, ever made that mistake again." Crashington's feathers had started to droop. "But surely—" "General," Thornscale interrupted, "have you ever wondered why I'm missing 3 limbs, why my eye is cybernetic, and why I wake up screaming the words cultural exchange at least twice a week?" "I assumed it was a glorious battle wound?" "Oh, it's a battle wound, all right. But there was nothing glorious about it. And if you'll shut your beak for 5 minutes, I'll tell you exactly why declaring war on humanity is the kind of idea that makes suicide by black hole look like a reasonable retirement plan. Picture this," Thornscale began, his artificial eye focusing on something far beyond the council chamber walls. 50 years ago, I was young, stupid, and in command of the largest invasion fleet the Galactic Alliance had ever assembled. 3,000 ships, each one bristling with enough firepower to sterilize a planet. I thought I was invincible. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the recorded logs from that fateful day. A massive alien armada hung in space like a swarm of metallic locusts, their weapon systems charging with malevolent intent. We'd received intelligence that a primitive species had just achieved faster than light travel. Standard protocol: show up, demand surrender, add another star system to the alliance. Should have taken maybe an hour, including the paperwork. Thornscale manipulated the display, zooming in on a small, almost pathetically tiny spacecraft approaching the fleet. It looked like someone had welded a couple of trash cans together and strapped an engine to the back. That, he said, pointing at the vessel, was our first mistake. We assumed anything that small had to be a scout ship or maybe a probe. So we did what any reasonable military commander would do. We opened a communication channel and demanded their immediate surrender. The recording crackled to life, and suddenly the chamber was filled with the sound of a distinctly human voice. "Well, howdy there, space neighbors. This is Captain Buck Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Friendship Express. We come in peace and we brought snacks." Crashington's head tilted so far sideways it was nearly upside down. He said, "What?" "That was my reaction too," Thornscale continued. "Here I am, commanding enough firepower to crack a moon, and this human is talking to me like we just met at a neighborhood barbecue. So naturally, I did what any self-respecting fleet commander would do. I told him to prepare for annihilation." The recording continued, "Annihilation? Wow, that sounds intense. Hey, would you folks like to come aboard for some coffee and cultural exchange? We've got donuts." "Cultural exchange," Thornscale repeated, and Kix noticed his remaining hand had started to shake slightly. Those two words should have been our warning to turn around and fly back to whatever rock we crawled out from under. "But you didn't," Crashington said, though his voice had lost most of its earlier bravado. "Of course we didn't. We were curious. And curiosity, General, is the first step toward absolute disaster when humans are involved." The display showed a small group of alien soldiers materializing aboard the human vessel. The interior looked like someone had decorated a spaceship using a furniture catalog in a complete disregard for military protocol. The human greeting party consisted of Captain Rodriguez, who looked like he'd stepped out of some sort of adventure hologram, and a woman named Zara Moonbeam, who introduced herself as their peace negotiator and part-time yoga instructor. "That doesn't sound threatening," Crashington ventured. "That's what I thought too. Right up until Zara started asking questions." The recording showed a pleasant-looking human female with an unsettling smile approaching the alien delegation. Her voice was sweet and curious. "So these are plasma cannons? How fascinating. What's the energy yield on these bad boys? And this targeting system, is it quantum locked, or does it use predictive algorithms?" "She asked about your weapons?" Kix squeaked, her antennae practically vibrating with alarm. "Oh, she asked about everything. Ship design, shield frequencies, faster-than-light drive mechanics, troop deployment strategies. All while serving us these circular sweet things called donuts and liquid stimulant called coffee." Thornscale paused the recording on Zara's face. Even frozen in holographic display, her smile was deeply unsettling. The really disturbing part wasn't that she was asking. It was how she was asking. Like she was genuinely interested in learning about our technology for purely academic reasons. She even took notes. "Notes are good," Crashington said weakly. "Shows they're diplomatic? General, when someone asks you the exact composition of your hull armor while offering you baked goods, that's not diplomacy. That's reconnaissance with refreshments." The display showed Captain Rodriguez clapping his hands together enthusiastically. "Well, folks, this has been great, but we should probably get back to our respective ships. We'll be in touch soon. Real soon." And that, Thornscale said, was when I should have realized we weren't dealing with a primitive species making first contact. We were dealing with humans. And humans, as I was about to learn, don't fight wars the way civilized species do. The war officially started 3 days later, Thornscale continued, manipulating the holographic display to show a series of increasingly bewildering tactical reports. I say officially because the humans had apparently been preparing since the moment we left their ship. The display showed the human homeworld, a blue-green planet that looked peaceful enough from orbit. What it didn't show was the absolute chaos brewing on the surface. My intelligence officers reported standard defensive preparations, military bases going to high alert, communication networks buzzing with activity, the usual stuff. What they didn't report was that the humans had apparently decided to crowdsource their entire war effort. Crowdsource? Kix asked, her translator struggling with the term. Imagine. Thornscale said, if instead of relying on trained military personnel, you decided to ask every single civilian on your planet to contribute ideas for defeating an alien invasion. Now imagine that every single one of those civilians thought this was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to them. The display flickered through a series of intercepted human communications, children's drawings of spaceships with improbable weapons, elderly humans discussing the tactical applications of kitchen utensils, suburban parents debating the defensive potential of garden sprinkler systems. The first hint that something was wrong came when we tried to land ground forces. Thornscale continued. Standard procedure: drop troops at strategic locations, secure the area, establish dominance. Simple. And? Crashington prompted, though he was beginning to look like he didn't really want to know. Have you ever tried to establish dominance over a species that treats your invasion like it's the galaxy's most entertaining reality show? The display showed alien drop pods landing in what appeared to be a human city center. The pods opened, and heavily armed soldiers emerged, ready for battle. What they found instead was a crowd of humans with cameras, snack vendors, and someone with a large sign reading "Welcome Alien Overlords. Please rate our planet 5 stars." This has to be some kind of psychological warfare, one of the alien soldiers reported over the communication channel. No, came another voice, I think they're actually excited to see us. Someone just offered to show me where they keep their nuclear weapons, for a small fee. Thornscale paused the recording. That was Private Scrix, a good soldier. Lasted about 6 hours before he requested immediate psychiatric evacuation. What happened to him? Kix asked. A human child showed him how to make explosives using household cleaning supplies and asked if he wanted to join her science fair project. The project was titled 50 Ways to Repel Alien Invaders Using Items from Your Kitchen. Crashington's feathers had gone completely flat. Surely your troops could handle civilian resistance? General, these weren't resistance fighters. These were enthusiasts. Do you understand the difference? Resistance fighters want you gone. Enthusiasts want to help you understand exactly why you should leave, preferably through detailed demonstrations involving improvised weapons and a lot of educational shouting. The display showed a suburban human residential area where alien soldiers were trying to establish a forward base. Instead of the expected opposition, they found themselves surrounded by helpful civilians offering to optimize their tactical positioning and suggesting improvements to their equipment. "My, sir," reported another soldier, "the locals keep bringing us food and asking technical questions about our armor. Also, someone's grandmother wants to know if we've considered using their communication frequencies for what she calls psychological disruption techniques. She has a chart." A chart. Thornscale laughed, but there was no humor in it. The humans turned warfare into a community project. Every victory we achieved just made them more creative. Every base we established became a tourist attraction. Every weapon we deployed became a learning opportunity. The display showed a human teenager approaching an alien patrol with what appeared to be a science project. "Hey, you guys want to see something cool? I turned my dad's leaf blower into a sonic disruption device. Watch this." The sound that followed was indescribable, but the effect on the alien soldiers was immediate and devastating. They didn't just retreat, they fled while covering their auditory organs and making sounds that could only be described as deeply regretful. That, Thornscale said, was a 17-year-old human named Jenny Martinez. She single-handedly routed an entire platoon using yard maintenance equipment and physics she learned from something called the Internet. But surely, Crashington said desperately, your superior technology and training gave you some advantage. Thornscale's expression suggested that this was exactly the wrong question to ask. General, our superior technology and training were designed to fight civilized enemies who followed recognizable patterns of warfare. The humans didn't follow any patterns. They made their own patterns, really weird patterns that somehow worked better than ours. Just when I thought I understood the scope of the disaster I was commanding, Thornscale continued, the human military decided to get involved. The holographic display shifted to show a new phase of the conflict. Gone were the amateur enthusiasts and creative civilians. In their place were organized military units moving with precision and purpose. I actually felt relieved, Thornscale admitted. Finally, professional soldiers I could understand. Traditional tactics, recognizable strategies. I thought maybe we could fight a proper war. Crashington leaned forward hopefully. General, the human military took everything their civilians had learned about fighting us and turned it into an art form. The display showed a tactical briefing taking place in what appeared to be a human command center. Military officers stood around a holographic representation of the battlefield, but instead of standard military formations, the display showed something that looked like organized chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, announced a human colonel, thanks to our civilian intelligence gathering efforts, we now know exactly how these aliens think, how their equipment works, and what they absolutely cannot handle. Phase 2 of Operation Cosmic Prank is now in effect. They called it Operation Cosmic Prank? Kix asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Their entire military campaign was named after a joke, Thornscale confirmed. That should have been another warning sign, but by then I was too committed to the invasion to back down. The display showed human military units deploying across multiple fronts, but their tactics defied every principle of conventional warfare. Instead of holding ground, they appeared to be leading the alien forces on elaborate chases through terrain that seemed specifically designed to confuse and disorient. Sir, reported one of Thornscale's tactical officers, enemy forces are retreating, but they're retreating in patterns that don't make sense. They're leading our units through what appears to be some sort of obstacle course. Obstacle course? Thornscale had asked. Yes, sir. Our forces report navigating through mazes made of reflective materials, areas where the gravity seems to change direction randomly, and zones where the local wildlife appears to have been trained to be maximally annoying. The display showed alien soldiers stumbling through a forest where every tree branch seemed positioned to smack them in the face while small earth creatures made loud, but distracting noises from concealed positions. The humans had weaponized their entire planet, Thornscale explained. Not just their technology or their military, but their geography, their wildlife, even their weather patterns. Every step we took was exactly where they wanted us to be. But you had superior numbers, Crashington protested. Superior firepower. General, have you ever tried to use superior firepower against an enemy that keeps asking if you want to make it more interesting? The recording shifted to show a battlefield communication between human and alien forces. A human voice crackled over the channel. Hey, alien guys, we noticed you're using standard plasma bombardment patterns. That's pretty effective, but have you considered alternating frequencies? We could show you how to really maximize that destructive potential. There was a long pause before an alien voice responded. You want to help us destroy you more efficiently? Well, if you're going to do it anyway, might as well do it right. Plus, we have some ideas for defensive countermeasures you might find educationally challenging. They were giving us tactical advice, Thornscale said, while simultaneously implementing countermeasures against our own weapons. Every suggestion they made was designed to make us more predictable, more vulnerable, and more confused about what was actually happening. The display showed the climactic battle of the war, if it could be called a battle. Alien forces had been maneuvered into a massive valley surrounded by human defensive positions. What followed was less a military engagement and more a comprehensive demonstration of why fighting humans was a fundamentally flawed concept. The humans had turned the entire valley into what they called a live-action physics lesson, Thornscale continued. Every weapon we fired, every tactic we employed, every strategic decision we made was immediately countered by something that shouldn't have worked but absolutely did. Human forces appeared to be coordinating their response through what looked like a combination of military precision and pure chaotic creativity. Weapons that had been improvised from civilian technology worked alongside advanced military hardware in combinations that defied both logic and physics. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They say they're willing to accept our surrender whenever we're ready, and they're asking if we need medical assistance or technical support for our withdrawal." "They offered to help us retreat?" Crashington asked, his voice hollow. "General, by the end of that engagement, the humans were providing tactical advice, medical assistance, and technical support to their own enemies while simultaneously defeating them in ways that redefined the entire concept of warfare." Thornscale paused the display on the image of his own command ship, badly damaged and limping away from Earth while human vessels maintained a respectful distance, occasionally checking if they needed any help with repairs. That was when I realized we hadn't lost a war. We'd been enrolled in an educational program we never signed up for, and the tuition was paid in humiliation and missing limbs. "You'd think," Thornscale continued, "that losing the war would be the end of our problems." The holographic display showed the aftermath of the conflict. Alien ships retreating, human vessels maintaining a polite distance, and what appeared to be formal surrender negotiations taking place in neutral space. The humans sent the same delegation that had welcomed us aboard their ship during first contact. Captain Rodriguez and Zara Moonbeam, still smiling, still offering refreshments, still asking questions about our technology with that same unsettling enthusiasm. "Surely they demanded reparations?" Crashington asked. "Territorial concessions? Resources?" Thornscale's laugh was the sound of someone who had stared into the abyss and found it offering him a friendship bracelet. "General, the humans didn't want reparations. They wanted to establish diplomatic relations." The recording showed Zara Moonbeam addressing the alien delegation with her characteristic disturbing cheerfulness. "We're so glad this little misunderstanding is behind us. We learned so much from each other. Now, we'd love to discuss cultural exchange programs, technology sharing agreements, and maybe some collaborative projects." "Collaborative projects?" Kix's antennae were twitching so rapidly they were creating a small breeze. Apparently, the humans had been taking notes throughout the entire war. Not just on our technology, but on our tactics, our psychology, our social structures, everything. They wanted to help us optimize our military efficiency and explore the potential for peaceful cooperation. The display showed a series of proposed agreements that the humans had prepared. Each document was meticulously detailed and utterly terrifying in its scope. "They offered to upgrade our weapon systems," Thornscale continued, "improve our ship designs, share their tactical innovations, provide training for our military personnel in what they called creative problem-solving techniques." "That actually sounds generous," Crashington ventured. "General, when the species that just handed you the most comprehensive military defeat in galactic history offers to help you become better at warfare, that's not generosity. That's a threat disguised as customer service." The recording showed Captain Rodriguez leaning back in his chair with casual confidence. "We figure, hey, if you folks are going to be in the conquest business, you might as well be good at it. Plus, we've got some ideas for making interstellar warfare more entertaining for everyone involved." "More entertaining?" several council members asked simultaneously. The humans had decided that traditional warfare was too boring. They wanted to help other species develop more creative approaches to military conflict. For educational purposes, the display showed detailed proposals for what the humans called enhanced combat experiences. These included suggestions for themed battles, point-scoring systems, and something called audience participation elements. They wanted to turn galactic warfare into a spectator sport, Thornscale explained, with commentary, instant replays, and post-game analysis. The most disturbing part of the negotiations wasn't the military consulting offers. It was the humans' genuine enthusiasm for friendship and cultural exchange. They had prepared detailed plans for student exchange programs, joint research projects, and what they called interspecies team-building exercises. We tried to explain that we had just been at war, Thornscale continued. That traditionally, defeated enemies don't become immediate best friends with their conquerors. The recording showed Zara's response, "Oh, but that's such an inefficient way to handle conflict resolution. Think of all the learning opportunities we'd miss. Besides, you guys are fascinating. We want to study your social structures, your technology, your military traditions. It'll be like having the galaxy's most interesting neighbors." "Study us?" one of the alien delegates had asked. "Absolutely, for science and friendship, and maybe to help prevent future misunderstandings. We've prepared some questionnaires." The questionnaires, as it turned out, were comprehensive psychological profiles designed to understand exactly how each alien species thought, fought, and could be defeated, all presented as friendly cultural curiosity. "The peace treaty we signed," Thornscale said, "wasn't just an agreement to end hostilities. It was an enrollment form for permanent human friendship, with all the benefits and absolute terror that entailed." The display showed the final document, signed by all parties. Hidden in the diplomatic language were clauses establishing regular cultural exchanges, technology sharing agreements, and something called mutual defense cooperation initiatives. "We thought we were signing a peace treaty," Thornscale concluded. "What we actually signed was a subscription service for ongoing human involvement in our military, technological, and social development. A subscription we couldn't cancel." "And since then?" Kix asked, though her voice suggested she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Since then, me. The humans have been the galaxy's most helpful neighbors. They send advisors to help improve our military efficiency. They share technological innovations that somehow always make us more dependent on their friendship. They organize cultural exchange programs that are definitely not reconnaissance missions. The display showed recent footage of human cultural ambassadors visiting various alien worlds, always asking interested questions, always taking notes, always offering helpful suggestions for improvement. "General," Thornscale said, fixing Crashington with his artificial eye, "when I tell you that fighting the humans was a mistake, I'm not talking about losing a war. I'm talking about accidentally signing up for eternal friendship with the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Part 6. Present-day Wisdom. The council chamber was dead silent as Thornscale finished his story. Even the translation devices seemed to have given up, leaving everyone to contemplate the implications of what they'd just heard. General Crashington's feathers had gone completely gray. "So you're saying we shouldn't attack the humans?" "General," Thornscale replied, "I'm saying that attacking the humans is like trying to solve your problems by setting yourself on fire and then asking the fire for advice on home safety." Ambassador Kix was busy updating her diplomatic protocols, adding a new category labeled species too dangerous for normal contact with humanity at the very top of the list. "But surely," Crashington said weakly, "our current military technology is more advanced than it was 50 years ago. We have better weapons, better shields, better tactics." Thornscale was about to respond when the chamber's doors hissed open. A figure in a crisp diplomatic uniform walked in, carrying a small basket and wearing the kind of smile that suggested they knew exactly where they were and why their presence was going to cause problems. "Hi there," the human said cheerfully. "I'm Ambassador Lisa Hartwell from the Human Diplomatic Corps. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." The silence that followed was the kind of quiet usually associated with the moment just before a star goes supernova. Every alien in the chamber turned to stare at the human, then at Thornscale, then back at the human, as if they were watching the universe's worst practical joke unfold in real time. "We were just discussing," Kix managed to squeak, "trade regulations. Very boring trade regulations." "Oh, trade," Lisa said, setting her basket on the conference table. "We love trade. I brought some cultural exchange gifts, homemade cookies, and some technical specifications for our new defensive satellite network. You know, just in case anyone was curious about our current military capabilities." She opened the basket to reveal what appeared to be baked goods alongside detailed schematics for weapons systems that made Thornscale's artificial eye start flickering in alarm. "We've been monitoring galactic communication networks," Lisa continued conversationally, "and we noticed some chatter about potential military actions in this sector. Thought we'd drop by to see if anyone needed any friendly advice or technical assistance." General Crashington made a sound that could only be described as the verbal equivalent of total system failure. "Of course," Lisa added, "we're always interested in making new friends. The Human Diplomatic Corps has prepared some wonderful cultural exchange programs that we'd love to discuss with anyone interested in improved interspecies relations." She produced a stack of documents from her basket. The top sheet was titled "Friendship Opportunities and Mutual Defense Cooperation Initiatives in Multiple Languages." Thornscale slowly stood up, his mechanical parts wheezing ominously. "Ambassador Hartwell, what a delightful surprise. We were just concluding our meeting." "Oh, perfect timing then. I don't suppose anyone here was considering any military activities involving human space?" The question hung in the air like a challenge disguised as polite conversation. Every alien in the chamber suddenly found the floor fascinating. "Because," Lisa continued, "we've developed some really interesting new approaches to conflict resolution since our last major engagement. Much more efficient. Much more educational. We'd be happy to demonstrate them if anyone's interested." "No," Crashington whispered, "no, we're good." "Very good. Completely uninterested in any military activities whatsoever." Lisa's smile widened. "Wonderful. In that case, we'd love to discuss some peaceful cooperation initiatives. We have some great ideas for improving galactic communication networks, sharing technological innovations, and maybe organizing some fun cultural exchange programs." She began unpacking more documents from her seemingly bottomless basket, each one more comprehensively terrifying than the last. "We'll also be establishing some new listening posts, friendship stations in this sector, just to keep in touch with all our wonderful galactic neighbors and make sure everyone's getting along." Thornscale looked around the chamber at his fellow council members, all of whom were nodding with the desperate enthusiasm of people who had just realized they were trapped in a room with the galactic equivalent of a friendly neighborhood serial killer. "Ambassador Hartwell," he said carefully, "we appreciate your friendship. Always have. Always will." "That's so sweet," Lisa replied. "Oh, and we've prepared a little gift for the Galactic Alliance. A new communication array that will help improve coordination between member species. It's completely free and definitely not monitoring your internal communications for security purposes." She produced a device that was simultaneously beautiful and absolutely terrifying, like a flower made of sophisticated surveillance equipment. "We'll install it next week," she continued. "Our technical team is very excited to help optimize your operational efficiency." As Lisa packed up her diplomatic materials and prepared to leave, she turned back to the council with one final smile. "Oh, and if anyone hears about any species considering military action against human interests, please let us know. We'd love to help them understand why that might not be the most productive approach to interstellar relations." The doors hissed shut behind her, leaving the council in stunned silence. After several minutes, Crashington managed to speak. "So we're sending the humans a gift basket." "The biggest gift basket in galactic history," Thornscale confirmed, with a card apologizing for even thinking about possibly considering military action. "And a request to never visit us again?" Kix added hopefully. Thornscale's laugh was bitter. "Ambassador, the humans are going to visit us whether we request it or not. They're helpful that way." He looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most powerful military alliance, all of whom were quietly updating their strategic plans to include avoid humans at all costs as their primary tactical doctrine. "Let this be a lesson to all of us," Thornscale concluded. "In this galaxy there are predators, prey, and humans. And the humans are something else entirely. Something that makes friends with their food before they eat it, and somehow makes you grateful for the experience." The meeting was officially adjourned, but not before every single council member had signed a unanimous resolution declaring human space a permanent peace zone, establishing a monthly tribute program, and formally requesting that humanity please continue to consider them friends. Because in a galaxy full of dangerous species, the most dangerous thing of all was making an enemy of someone who wanted to be your friend forever.